My name is Anthony. I'm currently 19 years old, living in Frederick, Maryland. This is my journey with motocross. I started riding when I was about 10 years old. Moved in to Frederick at about 10 years old and started on a KLX 140, riding around the yard and just playing around. Ever since then I fell in love with it. First bike, like real race bike, was a KTM 65. That's when I started really riding and racing, and I got KTM 65 when I was about 11 years old. I just remember my first time on a track. I have a track in my backyard. It was all up from there, and I just loved the sport. I fell in love with it. Really racing when I was like 11, 12 years old, and I'm currently 19 years old. And so it's been a good journey. So my stepdad, when we moved in with him, he got me on the KLX 140, and I would just putt around the yard, kind of just ride around a little bit. Wasn't really too big into it, didn't really like it too much, and then he surprised me with KTM 65, and I just fell in love with the sport, and I started riding. I had KTM 65 to KX 85, and that's when I started racing. I was about 12 years old when I really started getting into it. Then moved to Husky 85, and that's when I started really going to more and more tracks and riding more throughout the year. And I started really getting into it was when I got on a YC 125. I started riding Tomahawk and track in West Virginia every Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday in the off season in the winter, just putting in laps, more and more laps. I was just a kid and loving my dirt bike, and I wouldn't trade for the world. The memories, all the money my stepdad and my mom spent on the sport, you wouldn't trade for anything, because the memories are just endless and they're irreplaceable. I just love the sport, no matter how many times it's kicked me down and left me there. We continue to love it and continue to do it. So before I had my most recent injury, which I'll get into a little bit, is I was racing 250B class in Schoolboy 2. I got kicked out of C class. Was the year I went to for Loretta's in 250C, 450C, and 250C Limited. And we were at the Unionville Regional. I crashed first turn, first moto. I meet Evan, one of my brothers, Evan, takes me to all the tracks and everything. He got the whole shot and I was right behind him. We're coming around the sweeper at Unadilla on the pro track, and back end just went out from underneath me, and I high-sided and just got ran over by the whole field. I remember trying to continue to ride. My bars were just upside down, all bent and everything. But I lined up for the 125C moto and pulled the whole shot. Was running about third, and the race got restarted. And like, I can do this. And I lined up on the gate, hit false neutral, coming on to start straight, and then my front brake lever falls off. So, you know, that's what the sport's all about. It's good and bad luck. You put yourself in situations, the best situation possible to win, but sometimes things are just not in your best interest. And that's what makes the sport so great, is because you never truly know. And yeah, and so that's what also makes it so nerve-wracking. But I would not trade it for anything. This sport has taught me so much about problem solving, overcoming challenges, and I just love it. Before I got hurt, it's on a Honda 250. This is my race bike. We sold my practice bike after I wrecked. I was at Tomahawk MX in West Virginia. I was on a straightaway, and that track gets really rough, and it was one of those crashes where you don't even think you did anything wrong. So I was coming into a sweeper. I was sitting, charging, and then I went to stand up to absorb the braking bumps, and that's when the bike just kicked out from underneath me, went sideways, and I just high-sided. And when I hit the ground, the second I hit the ground, I knew something was wrong. And in this sport, collarbone breaks are so frequent, and so like everybody breaks a collarbone when they race motocross. And I get up and I'm like, I can't really move my arms too much, and I was like, I just snapped the collarbone, not thinking too much of it. I call my mom after whatever. After I get brought up to my car, I call my mom, like, hey, can you meet me at the hospital, blah, 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 blah. So one thing we noticed while we're at the track is something was like in my neck area right here, and we weren't really thinking anything of it. We were like, something's just out of place, like broke the collarbone. Go to the hospital. The second I get to the hospital, I get rushed in by like 10 doctors or nurses, whatever. Brought back, they start putting IVs in me. I get my CAT scans and everything, and I wasn't thinking anything of it. I get my CAT scans, I head back to my room, and right when I got back to the room and the doctor and everybody got the results, everybody started to kind of go into panic, which is unusual for me. I don't really like hospitals. I don't believe any motocross racer that's had injuries likes hospitals. Everybody's hooking me up to stuff, putting all this stuff on me to measure my vitals and everything, make sure my organs are all still working. And it turned out I had a sternoclavicular fracture dislocation, where I fractured the socket of my sternum and my collarbone, and my collarbone got pushed in, so it got dislocated. And what the risk with that is, you have your airway, your main arteries right here, and so it's really life-threatening injury, which we didn't know anything about it. And the doctor and everybody was like, how'd you get here? How'd you get to the hospital? I was like, oh, my buddy Evan just dropped me off. He brought me to the hospital, and they were like, you should have gotten life-flighted, got a helicopter ride. I was like, what? They're like, yeah, like if you would have hit one wrong bump in the road or something like that, then that could have jolted and punctured your main artery, and you could have bled out and all this other stuff. And I'm getting told this, whatever, and it's just me here. Like, my mom isn't at the hospital yet. She's still driving from work, and it's a pretty scary moment for me. And so I'm just like, what do we do now? Like, what is there to do? So I went to surgery that next day. It was on a Wednesday. I went to surgery on a Thursday. They stayed overnight. They plated my collarbone. They put 2 plates and 33 screws. I'll pop up a picture. Connecting my collarbone to my sternum, so no movement. And so it went right here. Here's the scars. Right here, down my sternum. That was 3 months ago now, and I just was on the road to recovery, and I felt terrible. Sternum, worst pain ever. And I started rehab, mobility, all that stuff, range of motion. And I noticed a bump coming out of my trap area right here. I noticed a bump, and it turned out that the plates broke and popped off my bone. So when we found that out, we were like, okay, I just spent a month and a half recovering and thinking I was gonna get back to doing things, and now we gotta start from square zero. So it was devastating, and it just really shows the mental toll this sport can really take on you. The doctors are all telling me that I can't take an impact to my chest. I'm not allowed to ride dirt bikes anymore. They don't want me driving a car. I can't have airbag go off on me. I can't lift weights. All these things, and it's just the thoughts going through your brain are like, it's just you don't even know what to think. That was definitely my scariest moment in my life. Was wondering if I would be able to do anything I truly love again. So got another surgery. I got the plates and everything out. The socket healed enough. The joint healed enough, so I didn't have to have any more metal in me. So I currently don't have any plates or screws in me right now, and everything's healing good. Just on the road to recovery now, and we're still not sure if or when I'll be able to get back on a bike, but we're just gonna keep pushing forward. I've been running. I'm gonna do a couple races and just continue to keep pushing forward and doing what I can do. Biggest life lesson this has taught me is just not really take anything for granted. One day you can be the strongest, most fit, feel great on your dirt bike, and in a split second, that can all be just taken right away from you. And I really believe this was all in God's hands, and God just truly blessed me with no metal in me right now, and just teaching me this lesson. This lesson is just part of the humps and hurdles you go through when you take on such a dangerous sport. Nobody understands it unless you're in the industry, you're in the sport, and you love it. And so I'm currently in school to get my physical therapy certifications, and just I'm in school for that right now for physical therapy. And this summer I'm getting my personal training certifications because I want to be training athletes, training motocross racers and stuff. So, because I truly believe that if you're at the top physical fitness, that your injuries are less severe, you can prevent injuries, and you can make it a lot farther in this sport. And I just want to help those in the local scene that really want to attack this sport and go for big things in the sport, and just help them out. That's my journey in motocross, and I would change it for the world.